Why is no one talking about how raising human beings is riskier than gambling your life savings in a coin flip? Children may be cute and sweet, but they are the epitome of a lifetime of responsibility. No warranties, no returns, no refunds of your time and effort as a parent. Adopting a child is barely any different, let alone adopting a child who is almost an adult. Either you hit the jackpot, a great teenager determined to improve themselves, or a violent person masked under her sweet, smiling face. But Gwen had a soft spot, and she's not someone to just stand there and pretend that this girl did not need a friend, a family, and a home. So she built her arguments to convince their parents to let her friends stay with them. Seeing their daughter's perseverance, Lovella and Cruz finally agreed to bring an additional family member to their home, which was a surprising twist of 2021. Little did they know, a ruthless, vicious, bloody murder was awaiting them just 2 weeks before Christmas. Hey, my name is Detective Maple. If you like true crime stories and unsolved mysteries, hit that subscribe button because I'm here to bring tons your way. So drape your blanket over your head and let's get spookin'. Society convinces us to believe that someone cannot be beautiful, intelligent, and kind all at once. You have to either be pretty and bubbly with not a thought in your head, or an accomplished cold woman. With all that's going on with her, leadership training, church, studying to be a nurse, then a doctor, you might think she's too busy to bother being nice. But Crizel Gwen Maguad was that girl who you would definitely want to be in your circle. In her free time, like any other Gen Z, she dances to popular TikTok music, hoping to spread the joy to others that may find their videos. With her is her 16-year-old brother, Luis, or more commonly known to his family and friends as Boy Boy. He was still in high school by the time of this story, and judging by their videos, he seemed chill and someone fun to hang out with. They may have been living the simple, rural life in the province of North Cotabato in the Philippines, but their parents surely did their best to give the Maguad children the best life they deserve, and boy do they make their parents' sacrifices worth it. Gwen wanted to be a doctor, and Boy Boy was an aspiring architect, and they had their parents' full support. Lovella, the mother, is a school principal, while Cruz, the father, is a public school teacher. No wonder the siblings are on the right track to a bright future. Too bad, the family's dreams were cut too short, too tragic, and too horrifying. December 10 was a day like any other for Cruz, the father. That day at work, a co-worker approached him, telling him to calm down and not act out of panic. Their family home was ransacked. He leaves for home immediately, worried to the core and imagining the worst possible case scenario. What he would find is far beyond what nightmare his subconscious could have ever created. As he was about to enter the front door, he found Boy Boy's blanket, stained with blood. The door was locked, so Cruz entered through the back door instead, and he immediately sees his son lying on the living room floor, drowning in his own blood. He almost missed out on something. His other child, Gwen, was also lying beside her brother in her own pool of blood. Cruz cried out in agony, his children, his life, all gone. Then, he hears a scream coming from one of the rooms. It was Jane, the family's adoptive daughter. In the context of this story, people on the internet have compared her to the horror movie character, the Orphan, and will later know why. And since she was a minor, we would not use her actual name, so let's call her Jane instead. There was no concrete information about her life and upbringing before. Most of these details from her past were from unverifiable sources, so take it with a grain of salt. People suggest that she grew up in an extremely poor and abusive household with 5 other siblings, and she eventually boarded a ship to run away. There were pictures circulating online of a missing girl who looked like Jane when she was about 5 years old. Then, she started babysitting for the Maguad's relatives. Jane would often accompany the family to the Maguad's house, and that was how they first met her. According to the family, she was nice and caring. For some reason, possibly due to financial issues, the relatives were not able to keep her as a babysitter. Already warming up to the Maguads, especially to Gwen, Jane asked if she could stay with the family even without pay. All she needed was for them to be kind enough to give her meals. Even though the siblings were grown-ups and no one needed any more babysitting, Gwen allegedly convinced her parents to let Jane stay. The parents thought about it and eventually agreed. The family did more than feed Jane 3 times a day. She would be their adoptive daughter, treated like one of their own regardless of her blood. Everyone was on board with the new addition to their family. Boy Boy even gave his room to Jane so she could have her own. Still, it would seem that Jane was the closest to Gwen. They were both girls in the same stage of life, now living under the care of the same parents. The family seemed picture perfect. The siblings would casually dance to TikTok songs, and the parents claimed that they made sure to treat their 3 children fair and square. With her newly found family, they were happy, for a time. There were allegations against Jane that she had stolen about $200 from their church. The Maguads found out about this, and although they were disappointed, they forgave Jane. Little did they know that more than wanting to steal money for herself, something else was going on with Jane. There's just this itch of hers that started like a small prick. Then it felt bigger and bigger until she was not able to tame it any longer. Jane was obviously shaken by whatever happened in the Maguad household when the police finally convinced her to open the door to the room that she was found in. But Cruz felt like something was off with her adoptive daughter. Her hair was still wet, suggesting that she came fresh from the shower. Picture this: if someone breaks in, brutally beats your siblings in front of you, and ransacks your house, how relaxed and at ease can you be to be able to take a shower? You would expect her to call or message the police to save her siblings, but she would not. Instead, she would post on Facebook asking for help, which is understandably practical to reach more people who could call for help. But if anyone is being brutally attacked, most people's first response is not posting on social media. During the attack, Lovella, who was in an event where there is barely a cell service, receives a text from Jane saying, "Mom, please help me." This was unusual as Jane never called her mom, but she was too eager to know what's going on to even notice it at the time. Her husband would call her eventually to deliver her worst nightmare come to life. Both their kids are dead. According to the police's interview of Jane as the only witness and survivor of the attack, she identified the attackers to be 3 men. Considering the brutality of the crime where the siblings did not stand a chance against them, this sounded plausible, at least at first. Jane said in the interview that she and Gwen were together in a room when Boy Boy was attacked first. When they went out to see what the hell was going on, the attackers grabbed and started beating Gwen, while Jane luckily was able to escape and run and hide in the room. At the crime scene, the police would find broken pieces of glass, a baseball bat, a hammer, 2 kitchen knives, and 2 butcher knives. The motive the investigation was looking at was burglary. 3 men wanted some extra cash, broke into a relatively well-off home expecting to ransack it of valuables, and found out that the children were there. The kids also likely saw the burglar's face, and in fear that they would be ratted out and imprisoned, they beat the kids to a pulp, killing the Maguads, except for Jane. If Jane's story were true, why would these men leave her out physically unharmed if they already killed the other 2? It's unlikely that whoever did this had any morals left to leave one person alive. The method of killing was odd if this was the motive, though. Usually, when burglars break in and find the owners, even if they meant to kill, they usually do not go this bloody or this cruel. Besides, why would they bother to put a towel over Gwen to hide her horrific state if they did not have any attachment or grudge against her or the family? That brings us to the next theory. Targeted killings, meaning the men purposefully broke in to kill the teenagers, or at least kill them to torture the Maguad parents. The best evidence to support this? Nothing was missing from the home. The forensic evidence also showed that Gwen likely died first, then Boy Boy. This does not corroborate Jane's story that Boy Boy was attacked first. Another weird thing was that the murder weapons were all from the family home. The baseball bat was from the laundry room, the knives from the kitchen, things only someone from the family would know about. Burglars don't usually expect to find the proper tools in their victims' homes readily laid out for them to use. The killers must have been very, very familiar with the family's habits and schedules. The police and the netizens speculated that the killer must have angrily beaten and stabbed Boy Boy and Gwen. However, because they did it over and over and the blows were not that deep or strong, it could not have been from the strength of 3 men. All it took was the rage of a very angry and envious teenager. Confronted with the evidence that was not lighting up with her story, Jane finally admitted to her involvement but ratted out another friend to have killed the 2 Maguad siblings. There were 2 witnesses to a strange young man asking for directions to the Maguad's residence on the day of the murder. This man would later be arrested in a drug raid. Gwen's phone would be found in his possession. Not even a week after the murders, Jane admits to the crime. Her DNA was all over the crime scene. If they were adults, Jane and her friend, or sometimes referred to as boyfriend, would have been charged with double murders. But since they were both under the legal age of 18, they were placed in the custody of the Municipal Social Development Office. With sufficient evidence and confession to the crime, the case was closed. Crizel, Gwen, and Boy Boy were later laid to rest. The remaining Maguad family members, Lovella and Cruz, were not able to spend their Christmas like before, and they would never be able to, not without their children. This case is just heartbreaking. Not every child who longs for a home turns into a vicious killer like Jane. She surely was a bad apple. But the damage has been done. People are more scared to adopt, and 2 innocent children with whole bright lives ahead of them were robbed of their future. The Maguad family is forever scarred by this horrific crime. Although she was not a 32-year-old lady in disguise, do you think Jane is comparable to the cold, violent, and remorseless Esther of the movie The Orphan? Or was she a victim of her haunting past, desperate to finally have the attention of her new adopted parents all to herself? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. In the next story, Roland Owen checked in at Hotel President a day after New Year in 1935. He says he's been staying at the Muleback Hotel, but it was too expensive. Turns out that Owen should probably never left his other hotel because 2 days after he checked in, they would have to clean up tons of blood in his room at 1046. Until then, Puppet out.